So hi everyone and welcome to another Sunday session, part of York Design Week and Bright Young Things. This time we're joined by Kate Byrne, founder of Creative Community.
Hi everyone.
So our Creative Community is a curated tool to introduce students to different career options within the creative sector. I won't go into too much detail, I'll leave Kate to do that. Obviously due to the pandemic, we would have loved to do this face to face, but instead we're going to do a pre-recorded talk. So we're going to cut to Kate and then we'll come back and do a bit of a Q&A.
Hi everyone. My name's Kate and I'm an architectural graduate and founder of Creative Community. For those of you who don't know, Creative Community is a subscription box designed to help those wanting to have a creative career make an informed decision about their future. We do this by collaborating with a wide range of professionals who discuss their career progression and how they got to where they are today. Each month we focus on a different creative who will speak frankly about their experience, the challenges in their journey, to give you an invaluable insight into their sector. As well as this personal exchange, our boxes also include a creative activity to complete based on the specialty of the creative. Now, my reasons for wanting to start Creative Community overlap heavily with the reasons I've been invited to talk to you today. No matter if you're a student, a parent, a grandparent, or a friend of someone considering a creative career option, I'd like you to carefully consider and digest what I'm about to speak with you today about. The idea for the subscription boxes came to me after I was approached by several parents from an arts workshop that I was running, asking me to speak to their children about working in the creative industry. I knew from personal experience how difficult it can be to get information on this topic. Our boxes combat this by taking a bottom-up approach, nurturing future talent. We do this by creating an environment to inform students and their parents of career options available in the creative sector. As a designer who's got a lot of satisfaction from working in the creative industry, I felt a responsibility to help students considering a similar career path to make an informed decision about their futures. Creativity is the most important skill in the world. It's incredibly powerful and far-reaching. It can change the world. It can help communities, and it shapes our future. However, many schools and families don't know how to react or support students who wish to follow a less traditional career path. Many of my creatives from my box speak of how careers guidance teams actively push them away from their dream, stating how their desire to work in the creative industry was an unstable one and not realistic. This is a widespread issue, with a study by the Institute for Employment finding that 40% of students felt like they were not given enough information from educators about entering the creative sector professionally, and 63% of students feeling they felt pressured to select a different career path entirely. However, this is as a result of misinformation or a lack of information, and is not a realistic perception of the industry. When Forbes asked hundreds of companies to find the top qualities in good hires, creativity came up on top, and LinkedIn found the same. This came alongside adaptability, working in a team, social intelligence, and good communication. And you can learn all of these skills through design education. In this talk, I am going to properly introduce you to the creative sector and explain why the community is so important. I'll be covering how design makes a difference, design in our economy, the starving artist myth, the value a design education adds to you personally, and finally I will be including resources for taking your design education into your own hands. Now, design and its principles have a greater impact on our lives than we might imagine at first glance. From our physical surroundings and infrastructure to the things we wear and buy to influencing our principles and the very fabric of our lives and lived experiences. Everything around us is embedded with design. It's one of the most powerful forces in our lives, whether or not you are aware of it. and it can also be inspiring, empowering, and enlightening. An example of this is 16th century Welsh mathematician Robert Record invented the common equal sign when he was tired of writing the word is equals to, and saw an easier way of conveying its meaning. By choosing a pair of parallel lines of equal length, it's a brilliant example of graphic design's power to solve a practical problem. We believe in design as a powerful and productive medium that can help to build a better life. And it stands to reason that we need the best designers to be able to do so. Now, we are not likely to do this if design is seen as a marginal discipline. The richer, the more diverse, and the more inclusive design becomes, the more compelling the industry will seem, and it will enable it to attract a higher calibre of designers that our society needs. With a digital boom and global push towards innovation and a growing culture and economy, creativity is capital and design is at the forefront. You will be part of an incredibly supportive community if you decide to pursue a career in creativity. Thinking differently can often make you feel like an outsider, but in the design and creative industries, it's the very thing that will accelerate your career. Curiosity and creativity are valued by a community of people who will understand, support, but also challenge you in your ideas. That's because it's not just a job to them, it's their passion and their lifestyle as well as their livelihoods. If you see a piece of work that inspires you or a creative that you find empowering, please don't be afraid to ask them for a moment of their time to see if they'd be willing to give you advice or pointers. The worst thing that'll happen is they'll have a full calendar and won't be able to fit you in, but in all likelihood, you'll come away with some valuable tips and tricks that will help you advance your career. It's important to remember that they've all been in the place that you are in today, and ultimately they want to see their profession, career to flourish and evolve, and you are the people who are going to be doing that. Design is essential for our economy. Art design and architecture are fast-growing industries, and progressive and collaborative thinking is in demand across major sectors, including education, health, agriculture, manufacturing. Design not only enhances the economy, but it is leading it into the future. Since the COVID pandemic, we need design more than ever to rebuild our society in a way that is caring and nurturing to our natural world. With global warming and the climate crisis, this is equally important, not only to design and create a future that is more sympathetic to the natural world, but also to create emotive and inspired advertisements, pieces of art, protest pieces to kickstart this revolution. An example of how design can truly impact our world, I've chosen my dissertation tutor as an example at university, who is an incredibly interesting woman called Rachel Armstrong, she's Professor of Experimental Architecture. She's director and founder of the Experimental Architecture Group, whose work has been published widely, as well as exhibited and performed at biennales around the world. She investigates a new approach to building materials, which she calls living architecture. This suggests it's possible for our buildings to share some of the same properties as living systems. By collaboratively working across disciplines, she builds and develops prototypes that couple the computational properties of the natural world with matter at the far end from equilibrium. She calls this synthesis that occurs between the systems and their inhabitants living architecture. It's envisioned as next generation, selectively programmable bioreactor that is capable of extracting valuable resources from sunlight, wastewater, air, and in turn generates oxygen, proteins, and biomass, which can be used for fertilizers. It's conceived as a freestanding partition composed of building blocks, which are being developed as standardized building elements, such as bricks. Another of her investigations speaks of saving the city of Venice from falling into the sea by creating limestone reefs, which form in darkness, so therefore under the city structure, and supporting the buildings above. But not only this, they could also create a livable home for sea creatures to safely reside. Next, I'd like to talk to you about the myth that creatives don't make any money. So a combination of hard work and seizing opportunities enables designers to lead not only fulfilling but financially rewarding careers. It is a myth that creatives don't make any money. If you Google, a single web search will disprove this and many other myths that I will come on to. The UK has a proud tradition of success in creative industries, from luxury gifts through to art and video games. It is well past the time that as a society we wake up and celebrate this shining example of British success. And I'm going to start by debunking more of the myths that creatives face, and I'll come on to those now. So the first myth is that creative industries are small money compared with other sectors. In reality, Britain's a world leader in the creative industries. These sectors employ hundreds of thousands of people and generate over £150 billion and are responsible for more than 10% of the UK's exports, which is actually more than the manufacturing sector. Another myth is that if you are creative, it means that you don't have a head for business. And the reality is that our best and most creative ideas come when they're engaged and coupled with rational thinking or problem solving and analysing something in a different way to come up with a creative solution. And this can come from something that seems relatively mundane, such as Emma Bridgewater, who came up with her range when she couldn't find a cup and saucer to give her mum for a birthday present that she thought was beautiful. And now her world famous pottery brand turns over more than 12 million a year. Another myth is that the only creative industries that truly count or that you're likely to make money from are film and computer games. And although these are brilliant, fascinating sectors, so are all the others. The government also had this idea back in 2013 when it considered removing crafts from its list of recognised creative industries, until someone pointed out that the sector generated 3.4 billion a year. A similar myth to the previous is that creative business owners are not money people. And as I've previously explained, the UK's creative industries are immense cash cows for the country's economy. For this to have happened, the success has to have been driven by both creative people who are also smart with their finances. Another example of this is Thomas Heatherwick, who's a creative genius behind Heatherwick Studios. He first emerged as a talented designer in the late 1990s, setting up business on his own. And he has now gone on to build a world-renowned design business, employing 150 architects and designers with a turnover approaching 10 million. The creative economy currently employs 1 in 10 of the working population. However, we do have a talent crisis in this sector. Because of the myths and the push towards more traditional careers, we are failing to provide enough young people with the right mix of skills and information to be able to pursue a creative job. Brexit has made the situation even harder, as we would originally fall to Europeans and immigrants to fill highly skilled positions. But of course, this is not going to be an option anymore. Now, a reason to study a creative subject, as well as obviously a very rewarding career, is the rewards to you personally as well, which they come with a whole myriad of transferable skills. So creative talent provides an ability for you to solve problems creatively. So you don't automatically have to be into an artist or a traditional creative job. You can also work across the sectors for non-profit community organisations, commercial businesses, or cultural institutions. Now, why creativity matters in one sentence is that creativity cannot be automated. So while robots are great at optimizing old ideas, organizations need creative employees who can conceive the solutions of tomorrow. This is so important, as I previously stated, because of the coronavirus pandemic and also the global warming crisis. So recently, LinkedIn Learning, using their economic graph, they determined the skills companies were looking for the most. I mentioned this earlier briefly, but I'd like to revisit it just to look at it in a bit more detail. So as I said, at the very top of the list was creativity. Now, technically, this was second in the list, with cloud computing at the top. However, cloud computing is a hard skill, which means it only applies to a section of the workforce, and it doesn't have the staying power that a soft skill has. It's not as transferable. Macroeconomic trends suggest creativity will only become more important moving forwards. Therefore, I feel it's no stretch to say that creativity is the single most important skill in the world for all professionals today to master. So as I previously said, process-driven jobs are fading, and this ultimately comes down to commoditization. Today, basically anything that can be automated has been automated or will soon be, and this cuts down on a lot of process-oriented tasks. If you use the example of the news industry, it used to take teams of people to set up the layers of the paper, create the printing press, print the paper, and then deliver the paper to subscribers. Today, with a lot of news dispersed electronically, virtually all of that process-driven work is automated. So what is left are the journalists who have to be creative and cut through the noise to be able to connect with people, with their readers, bring new stories, create relevant and novel solutions, to create pieces that people want to hear and are interested to hear. This same phenomenon is happening across every industry and every function. Software companies don't just want someone who can write code, they would like someone to be able to dream up new softwares, fix old problems. They don't just want business analysts who can crunch numbers, they want analysts who can think of creative solutions based off the numbers to come up with new ways of fixing old problems. So if you'd really like to future-proof your career, there's no better approach than thinking more creatively. Stop settling for solutions that have worked previously and push yourself to think of new and better ideas. And despite what you may have thought, creativity is a skill, and like any skill, it means you can get better at it if you work at it. What most people don't realise, that creative thinking is a highly prized attribute in practically every industry, and there are multiple opportunities available to those who study art, design and architecture and other similar creative subjects. Now, an important factor of design is empathy and understanding the multiplicity of points of view. And as a result, if you are a creative and also empathetic person, it stands you in good stead to come up with creative solutions, and it puts you in a perfect position to craft things for other people. Inclusivity is so important in design solutions as it can reframe current technologies with a human mindset. And now this is more than just a force for social good. It is smart business practice. Inclusion drives innovation by helping us solve problems for a much broader range of people, which ultimately has economic benefits and definitely should not be an afterthought. There's a long history of innovators inspired by the needs of specific audiences, which end up benefit many others. Audiobooks, for example, were initially made for people who were blind or visually impaired. And voice-based interactions were originally created for people with limited use of their hands for a keyboard or who needed keyboard or mouse work. Diverse views create stronger designs, and that is why earlier I mentioned the importance of opening up the creative sector to as wide a range of people as possible. Great design cannot just happen in a vacuum, and companies need to build more diversity into their teams in terms of ethnicity, in terms of gender, age, and physical ability. Hi, sweetheart. This is my dog Moose. This means that changing traditional views about who can qualify as a designer and what good design looks like. Inclusive design creates a more holistic and humane view of people. It's a way to identify and partner with excluded communities and to bring them into the design process as contributors. My final reason for considering a creative career is that it really does give you the opportunity to design your life. One of the most valuable aspects is the ability to create your own path. And unlike some professionals, there's no limit to the ideas you can develop, the people you can meet, and the places that your career can take you. Gaining the fundamental skills, connections, and the global badge of creativity creates flexibility, global opportunity, and diverse career opportunities, allowing many designers to work where, when, and how they choose. Now, this does come with negatives, as you can be littered with obstacles, setbacks, rejections, and of course there are moments when productivity simply can't be forced. Creative blocks are natural, but they are temporary, and a project might not come into place until about the 10th revision. So please don't be disheartened if you don't immediately find yourself where you want to be. Please continue with it, reach out for help to the fabulously supportive community, and stay positive, because it can and it will happen. I always think that it's more important to try and have setbacks at something you really want to pursue, rather than go down a career path you feel pressured to pursue, because you still may not be successful, and you're likely to not be successful if your heart isn't in it. So you can have challenges in both sections, so you might as well pursue the thing you really want, because when it happens, you'll find you have a much more fulfilled life. Now, self-education is the secret to growing your life and the career you've always dreamed of. The most successful people in any kind of business and in any form of life are those who are constantly learning. Now, this can be through formal education, could also be through self-directed learning. It could be through gaining experiences, which you should always aim to get as many different experiences as you possibly can. Or even through failure. Through failure, you'll always learn very, very important lessons that you can take on in your next project. So the way that I would select the best course of education for you is by considering your learning style, your budget, and your time frame, and what interests and motivates you. So of course, I think the most obvious form of education is formal education. It is time consuming and it's expensive. but it's a good option if you're looking to fill a large gap in your experience or if you need a specific qualification for the next step. For example, I had to complete my architecture degree in order to move to the next step of architecture. I'm no longer following that route, but if I decided that was the route I wanted to go down, then that is the route I would have had to continue on. Now, there are endless options. There's campus formats, but you can also learn online. If you're keen on higher education but don't want the campus experience, there are many organisations that offer a range of subjects online. Another option is workshops and training courses. These are great for a short immersion into a subject. And there are a myriad of training providers out there providing everything you could possibly want. So please have a Google, look online, see what interests you. There are digital short courses, which might be more appropriate considering the current climate. You can look at these on LinkedIn Learning as well as Skillshare and other similar platforms. There are also conferences and events such as this fabulous event, York Design Week. The negative aspect of this being online, as well as obviously the positive ones of being more accessible, is that you don't have the opportunity to talk as easily to the creatives that you might find inspiring. If anything I've said today has interested you, please feel free to reach out. I will be more than happy to help as best I can or point you in a certain direction. But of course, please go to as many events as you can. It's great for interaction with like-minded people, even if you don't meet someone who you think can be immediately important or useful in your career. If you exchange advice, always offer them your help as well, and offer them your skill set. Later on, you might find that they're exactly the person you're looking for. Now, my final piece of advice would be podcasts. Super easy, traveling around, working, have them on in the background. Find a podcast that really speaks to you and that you can learn from as well. My personal favourite creative podcast is The Creative Pep Talk by Andy J. Pizza, which is brilliant. He interviews a whole host of different creatives and teaches you or gives you advice on how to overcome different obstacles, as well as life stories and professional stories of people who have succeeded in their career. Now, thank you very much for listening to me today. I hope it's been informative. As I said, please feel free to reach out if you would like any more information on any of the points that I have said. I will include a screen at the end with information on how to contact me if you would like to do so, as well as our subscription boxes and some of the fantastic people that I've previously mentioned, examples, and of course, my podcast recommendation. Now, I'd just like to finish by leaving you with some of my fantastic creatives that I've collaborated with for my boxes, who would like to share their one piece of golden advice that they wish they had known when they were younger and starting out. I hope you enjoy, and I hope you have a lovely rest of the design week. Goodbye.
Hi there, I'm Carl Mock, and I am the founder and architecture designer at TarLab. At TarLab, we are a spatial design agency with an interest in architecture and branding. And the advice that I would give myself, or a younger version of myself, is that you have to be really open to as many different possibilities and opportunities. As a designer, sometimes you go into the industry thinking that you're going to be doing a certain job or a certain role, and that's just going to be it. That's it. And that's entirely untrue. What my advice to you, or to any young designer out there, is to try as many different things that come your way as possible. You have no idea the amount of possibilities that the industry has if we took a little bit more time to just explore what else is there, in other creative industries, whether it's fine arts or graphic design or interior design. And yeah, just to take anything that comes your way and remember that, architecture is not this rigid box of opportunity. It is in fact a really open bubble. And I want you to go out there and just try as many, many different things as possible before making up your mind in your career. Thank you.
Hi there, my name's Sarah and I'm an artist and I'm a writer and I'm lucky enough to work for myself. So today I'm going to share with you some advice on approaching a career in the creative industry. Take time getting to know yourself, know what you're about, know your passions. Number 2, get experience as much as possible, both in and out of the industry. Number 3, reach out to people, connect with people, talk to people. They're lovely, really, they are. We may all act a bit silly sometimes, but we all have something to give in this world. And number 4, believe in yourself. Okay, that's so important, believe in yourself. Now go do it, okay? Good luck from me. Take care, bye.
Hello, my name is Steve Lawson and I study directing animation at the National Film and Television School, and I also freelance for myself on the outside. The one piece of advice, I guess, I wish I had earlier on is that more than anything else, it's okay to want to work in the arts. I was always being pushed in other directions, and yet at the same time I was inspired by these quotes by people like Walt Disney, like, if you can dream it, you can do it. And the one in particular that sticks in my mind is fantasy and reality often overlap. And with a bit of perseverance, over time, having gone down the wrong path and gone down a sort of more traditional route, I realized that, I could be in the arts, and now I'm here. There's all this noise which you can hear, which is coming from a machine from Chicken Run. I'm working on this amazing stop motion with people from Aardman, people who've worked on Star Wars and all sorts of great films. And it feels great to finally be at this point where I guess I feel like I'm achieving something, or certainly starting to. So yeah, good luck, I would say, and just do it.
Great.
Right, so now we're going to go to a small Q&A session. So your design week is built around 5 themes with an overarching concept that anyone could be an activist. So how do you see yourself as an activist?
I like to see myself and the box as kind of a gateway into the creative sector, and teaching young people that it's not unstable and it's not unrealistic to pursue a career in the creative sector. And I think that, considering some of the propaganda that the government's been putting out recently, it's quite a almost like a rebellious statement to say that you don't have to have one of these 9-to-5 office jobs to be successful. And through our box, I hope that we can convey that message and show how many different options there are within the creative sector, and how to be successful in each of these sectors.
Yeah, I think there's definitely something there. There's this idea that we're almost taught that whatever we're passionate about can be our job.
Yeah, it's a hobbyist thing. Yeah.
In your spare time.
Yeah, exactly.
So one of the other themes of your design week is play. So play has been shown to release endorphins, improve brain functionality, and stimulate creativity. But there's often this misconception that play is only for children, and as we sort of grow up, we grow out of it. As an adult, how do you play?
I do many things. I'm a creative at heart. I have my own pottery wheel, so I like throwing. Yeah. I like knitting, crochet, lots of drawing, anything really that can become a mindful activity, and just not as a distraction, but as a completely different activity to what you've been doing in the day. I think it's a really good thing to unwind. And yeah, definitely not just for children, but it's very important for everyone of all ages to
that sort of bit of what we just said of your passion becoming your job.
Yeah.
And also it's almost as if work and play sort of interact with each other.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably why people are creative in a sense, because it is a form of play and it's a form of expression and freedom.
Definitely. I think that being creative and teaching creativity, it's not just something that, although it can be taught through these mediums that often children find very engaging because it's very hands-on, it's important for adults too, because even if you're not in the creative industry, if your job is, you know, as an engineer or in computing, in writing code, creativity is still so important because it's, you know, about progressing your sector and think of new and imaginative ideas and solutions to problems. So, and having that self-expression and way of exploring your thoughts is so important, because a lot of other subjects, it's kind of you learn and then you regurgitate. There's no way of kind of self-discovery and creating something that's yours.
Yeah. So another theme of your design week is rewild. It's all about sort of reconnecting with nature, using the green space around you. So how do you rewild? Have you got green space around you that you sort of can reconnect with nature?
I do. I have a dog, Moose, who does feature briefly in the pre-recorded video, unavoidably. And yeah, one of the reasons I wanted to get him was so that it forced me to get out every single day and go on a nice long walk, and it's very grounding.
Yeah. I've got 2 spaniels. I think being in lockdown, they sort of kept my sanity.
Yes.
Because they've definitely got personalities, and we have little chats, although obviously they don't talk back. The idea of I could stay in a slump all day and do nothing.
Yeah.
Actually, we're surrounded by all these amazing places. I can go for a walk and not see anybody else, which is absolutely fine, but also have that break from technology and just hearing the sounds.
Well.
Exactly. So that leads on to our next question. So another theme for your design week is space. A space doesn't necessarily need to be a physical place. People can make spaces. What spaces have you created this year, and what space have you found that makes you happiest?
Space-wise, I suppose it doesn't really matter to me exactly where I am. It's kind of like without sounding too cliche, like the energy that's in it. So as long as if I've got my partner and my dog and just surrounded by what I love doing. So for example, this box is something I'm so passionate about. So as long as I've got those few ingredients, and as well, the walking and the breaks and things like that, I'm very...
I think especially this year with lockdown, that idea of people being spaces is really honed in for people, because I don't know about anybody else, but sort of me and my husband being purely us and the dogs for such a long period of time, they almost, I mean, some days it did matter that we couldn't go out, but other days it was like, what do you want to do today? It's like, oh, well, we'll sit on the sofa and we'll watch TV, and that is the happy place, because we've got who we need with us.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Very broad question next. So the fourth topic for your design week is trust. So what do you trust in?
From starting this box, I always knew that the community was, the creative community as a whole was very supportive. You know, if you approach someone who is to talk to them about their passion, their career, they're always very open. And I feel that especially if you are starting off as an artist, as a kind of solo entrepreneur in a way, knowing that there is a community around you who are going to support you, they are going to guide you and kind of be your base to come back to. I think that's something I've definitely learned to trust in, from reaching out to people and them saying how much they'd like to be on board, and what can we do to help, you know, this is great. And it's really opened my eyes to how much you can rely on other people, I guess.
Yeah.
How much, you know, do reach out to your community, to your kind of your group.
I think it's not until you sort of take that first step that you realize how big the community is.
Yes.
I think especially sort of given, obviously, everyone's seen the adverts of Fatima could have this job next, and she I think everyone's then come together and be like, actually,
Excuse me.
we're a massive community who make a massive impact.
Yeah, exactly.
Bringing
Yeah.
a lot, not only to bring in a lot of money, but mental health, the impacts of that on having a creative outlet. I think the community is really what keeps everybody going at the moment.
Oh, definitely.
I think it's especially these sorts of things as we see more arts and media and drama and stuff, budget cuts being given to schools all the time, and it's these sorts of things that are going to keep that alive. And I think the community is going to keep this industry going.
Definitely. I mean, with like you said, with arts programs and things being cut, it almost breaks your heart a little bit, because you think, what's the next generation going to be like, and it means it's up to us to inform them and keep them passionate and let them know that it is realistic and it's possible.
It's almost a catch-22, because as much as I love everyone coming together and us proving that that people do need this and this is a career, and you almost don't want to have to be doing that all the time.
Oh yeah.
It's almost like we need somebody else out of our bubble to believe in us and believe in us.
Yeah, it is tricky, definitely.
So we've touched briefly on our mental health. So the last question is all around share. So October 10th obviously was Mental Health Awareness Day. We saw a lot of campaigns around it about keeping the conversation going, especially given the circumstances this year.
Yeah.
Very isolating for many people. How have you learned new ways to share and open up and deal with those?
I think, again, I'd have to go back to the community, and not just the creative community on this, but the wider community as well, and seeing it's kind of refreshing in a way, because definitely, although lockdown, it's been so hard and it's been a real shock to everyone, but it's forced people to slow down. And it's definitely opened up the conversation in a way that I've not seen it been opened up in that way before. People are a lot more open, and even just if you go on social media, reading people's blogs, and people are a lot more candid about the way they've been feeling, and in sharing tips and tricks and ways in which they've managed to cope. So I think in a way, every cloud has a silver lining, doesn't it? So.
Yeah, I think you have to think like that, don't you?
Yeah.
I think sometimes it only takes off one person. I know if I've had a bad day and I scroll through my Instagram and I see that somebody else has just been really honest.
Yeah.
Said, this has happened to me today, I'm feeling crap. It almost makes you think, God, it's all right. It's all right that I can feel like this person's being honest.
Definitely. It's not just a me problem.
Yeah. I think, like you said, we've seen more people doing that this year.
Yeah.
And I hope that continues to grow.
I do too, definitely. I think that it's opened up definitely to more people who wouldn't have necessarily felt comfortable about it before, talking about it, because it's become so widespread and more of the norm. Hopefully that will continue.
Yeah, I hope so. So thank you, Kate. That was very insightful.
Thank you very much.
I'm not really sure how to end it, but we'll just say thank you. We'll obviously put links so everyone can go to the website. They can check out the box. The first one's launching in December, so everyone go check that out. And thank you very much.
Thank you very much to you too.